Every day, more than 500,000 children across the state leave the familiar environment of their homes and make their way to our schools.
Put on your thinking caps and think about where you'd like to start your morning.
They bring with them their endless potential.
Today is Friday.
They bring their dreams, fears, joys, their greatest strengths, and their greatest challenges.
What do you do with a student who is reading at the kindergarten level when you're teaching 4th grade?
They start to lose that self-confidence, and you really start to see the light go out in their eyes.
Although some of our students score among the top in the country, our low-income students performed at dramatically lower levels. Ours is the largest achievement gap in the nation, and it exists in urban, rural, and suburban communities.
How can anyone, by any code of morality, say to a child, you were born into poverty, and so tough luck. You're just not going to learn what everybody else learns.
We have an absolute obligation to make sure that these children are getting the skills that they need so that they never have to feel, I'm a failure.
And while 86% of our middle and high-income students graduate from high school, only 60% of our low-income students receive a diploma.
There are close to 135 schools in the state of Connecticut that have underperformed for 5 years or more. These are dropout factories.
Without the attention on closing the achievement gap, you have a group of students who become very disenfranchised, not just from education, but also from the very communities in which they live.
When you have academic success, you have vibrant communities, you have a vibrant economy, you're able to attract businesses.
Our futures are inextricably linked with the academic achievement of young people in our state.
If children don't have the same access to a high-quality education, then this country isn't what it says it is.
Raising educational achievement is a civil rights issue of our time.
We put a man on the moon over 40 years ago. Please don't tell me we can't fix the education system.
The fact is, we do know many of the ingredients for raising educational achievement for all our children. And we now have some models for success. Around the country and right here in Connecticut, program after program is showing us what we need to do to close the achievement gap.
On an individual basis, this is the process of saving lives. On a collective basis, it's the process of changing the world.
It's time for us to rise to the occasion to fulfill the promise of each child and of our community. It's time for us to have great expectations.
Good morning, Smarties! Now listen, it's your job to listen. Today is Friday.
Education has been called simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another.
Here we go, W-E, go ahead, Nisa.
We need only look at small school children to know the truth in that.
Good work. High five.
We need each other to be our best, to give us a sense of belonging, and within that safety, to challenge us.
Niara's gonna try by herself first. Are you ready?
Good morning, Smarties. Today is Friday.
Give her a clap. Nice job, Niara. Would you like a firecracker? One firecracker for Niara. Here we go. Ready? High five. I get incredibly excited for them with the tiniest success they have, whether that be someone saying, that's a V, that's in my sister's name. We make a big deal about that.
I found an uppercase S.
Uppercase S. Good job, Shamar. Want me to help you with my finger? Give me your finger. Ready? Here we go. Count.
Teachers like Elizabeth Sked know how to help children become lifelong learners.
Yes, yeah. Give me a high five. Good work, Malachi.
But increasingly, teachers grapple with challenges that students bring with them their first year of school. Sadly, the achievement gap starts early.
you first start to see the achievement gap surface in kindergarten.
Does everybody have a letter? Nakari, tell us what letter you have.
K.
Perfect.
U.
Nice work.
I.
Perfect. Oh, you have an important letter, Eileen. It comes right after my letter. After A comes...
Some of them don't know their colors, they don't know the ABCs, they don't know their numbers, they don't know some of those foundational kinds of things that we want children to know. While others, their classmates, have all of those things and are ready to move on.
You can't expect a student to come in September at 4 or 5 years old, never having held a book, seen a book, but then be reading books by the end of kindergarten with 4 or 5 sentences on the page. That's a big feat for anybody, let alone a little peanut.
A large part of the achievement gap that currently exists in public schools between families whose children have means and families who don't can be attributed to a preparation gap.
Low-income children are at a disadvantage by the time they start kindergarten. When you compare those kids to kids who are from more advantaged backgrounds, there's a huge gap that exists even by age 3.
The gap is not caught until kids reach formal school, where the challenges are spotted by educators.
Ready? Everybody sit up big and tall.
When you have one child who's completely ready and another child who, looking at their food doesn't even know how to pick it up, doesn't know how to hold a pencil, doesn't even know their name because they've been called a nickname their whole life. Now you're trying to play catch up.
Playing catch-up is really not a workable option for the child, for the teacher, or for society as a whole. To close the gap and raise achievement throughout a child's school career, all kids must have access to high-quality early childhood education.
We know that children experience the most rapid brain development in the first 5 years of life. We know that by age 5, there's an enormous difference in skills between children who've had access to preschool and those who don't.
We know from tons of studies on the cost-benefit analyses of early childhood education that children who go to high-quality preschool programs do a whole lot better later on in life. They're less likely to repeat a grade, they're less likely to need special education, they're less likely to be incarcerated, they're more likely to own a home, they're less likely to need welfare, and they pay more in taxes.
Knowing that early childhood education can not only change an individual's life, but also have real benefits to society, makes it seem like an obvious choice. But it is an opportunity that, for some, has been ignored.
There are many children, many 3- and 4-year-olds, who simply don't have access, whose parents can't afford preschool.
So poverty and low academic achievement can become a vicious cycle.
Access to high-quality early childhood across the state is not even close to equal. The access to programs varies largely by the income level of the families. There's a huge variation in facilities, in cost, in the curriculum that's being taught, in the quality of the workforce from program to program. We also need to do some significant investing in workforce development. But at the same time, if we're going to increase the education requirements for workers, then the pay for those workers is going to have to go up, or we're going to lose those workers to other parts of the workforce.
In order for Connecticut to improve access to pre-K education, it really needs to invest more dollars. There's no 2 ways around it. The only way that you're going to ensure that every child is able to attend a preschool program is to ensure that the state is providing subsidies to those parents who simply can't afford to send their child to a preschool program otherwise.
When we look at the societal savings for those children who attended a high-quality preschool program and weigh that against the cost of the program, by the time these children are 19 years old, it's paying back over $7 for every dollar that we put into the program. By the time these children are 40 years old, it's paying back $17.
But effective educators and leaders know that money alone does not solve problems.
Good. How many? 2 left. 2
simply having kids go to a pre-K program is not enough. It has to have certain elements to it for the effects to occur and then sustain over time and not fade out.
So David Title set out to create a model for a successful pre-K. At the time, he was superintendent of schools for Bloomfield, a community coping with poverty.
As I was making the rounds to schools, looking at our student data, we noticed that a lot of our children coming into kindergarten didn't have the skills, the social skills, the academic skills, the vocabulary that they needed to be successful with our kindergarten and first grade programs.
He was looking for ways to close the achievement gap, and he saw a high-quality early childhood program for as many of Bloomfield's children as possible as a way to get there.
Together, David and others like Principal Jenna Tenor started Wintonberry.
We decided to go in partnership with all of our community partners within the town, and we got together and we started designing the school. Could we put together a model that would take all the elements of a facility that was specifically designed for early childhood and really show what can you really do to facilitate student learning?
The tenets of a successful learning environment and program are important throughout K through 12, but they are evident even in a preschool.
A square.
Square, where's a square?
Like blue square.
Great, it's a blue square.
A successful learning environment encourages as enriching an educational experience as possible. Even the facilities reinforce learning and incorporate age-appropriate concepts.
There are 3 separate playgrounds with 3 different themes. It's not just recess, because development of fine motor and gross motor skills is an important feature to the school.
Within these environments, children are learning to communicate with others, listen, negotiate, collaborate.
Here, if you'd like to pink and yellow. Hey, it looks just like this stem right here.
And nothing is more important than having the right teachers to guide them.
The single most important thing is the quality of the interactions between the adult in that classroom and the children in that classroom.
See how he's holding it with this hand and wrapping around with the other hand? Can you do yours?
And that means that we need to have highly qualified teachers in each and every one of these classrooms.
Transform. The last shape is a triangle. It's called a triangular prism.
In each classroom, we have a teacher who is certified in early childhood. We also have instructional assistants that have a background in early childhood.
My role as a teacher in the classroom is really as a facilitator and a support system for the children. No matter where they came from before they got to school, when they come here, they belong here.
I'll set it up for you, and then you can figure out which book you'd like to use, which book you'd like to read today.
Once grounded in a learning community, their day is organized around individual or small group projects, each designed to grow certain skills.
Another round one. How did you find 2 round ones?
Educators have discovered that children more fully absorb what they need to know when their learning is relevant to them, when it grows out of their own interests, observations, and discoveries.
Oh, and then you bent it? Look what happened.
High-quality schools craft these relevant and interactive environments throughout a child's education.
Kids are active, kids are taking control of their own learning, and that's true on the playground as well as inside.
And think about where you'd like to start your morning. I'm thinking of a place to choose. I'm thinking of a place to choose.
The children make a choice about where they'd like to start their day. When they go to that area, they can stay for as much time as they need to. Some children might stay 30 seconds. Some children will stay 25 minutes. Just making choices throughout the day and following their interests in the classroom promotes self-regulation and independence in children. We want to teach children to ask questions and to almost learn about learning and learn how to learn.
There it goes.
What color is the water today?
It's blue water.
We don't want to just feed them the answers. We're going to say, I wonder how we can find that out. Maybe there's a book we can look in. Maybe we have to get the objects and use them ourselves to really see how they work. When you're interested in something and you ask the question, you're more likely to find out the answer yourself rather than just wait for somebody to give it to you.
In successful preschools like Wintonbury, even vocabulary words are made relevant.
Ooh, the cicada. Was that a good choice, Jessie?
They grow out of the project or the interaction with their peer.
In terms of working to close the achievement gap, we really focus on rich vocabulary. We're looking for conversations that go back and forth and children are taking turns.
Who is it? Me again?
Which is very exciting because you have the children coming in from different communities who may have a richer vocabulary development, and so children learn from other children better than they learn from adults.
I'm gonna say a word. I want you to point to the picture of the word. Touch river. Whistle.
High-quality pre-Ks know this is especially important because a well-developed vocabulary is a hallmark of future educational success.
Kids who do not have an early childhood experience, come from low-income families, have a quarter to a fifth of the vocabulary of their peers for more advantaged families. And that is a very difficult deficit to make up in a short period of time.
Touch globe.
Something that we don't do a very good job of in Connecticut is we have very poor data on our early childhood programs. We are not able to track a child who enters an early childhood program and follow them through their career to see how they're doing. We have many, many departments across the state that have their hands on early childhood. They all have separate data systems, but these data systems don't necessarily talk to each other. Connecticut could improve its access to early childhood education by establishing standards across the state for what a high-quality early childhood program should be.
Schools like the William Pitt Child Development Center in Stamford are collaborating with their municipalities to ensure that their pre-K program readies children for kindergarten. The city hires instructional coordinators to work with each teacher.
Ready? Slices, and you know what? Some of the kids think it looks like a flower.
The instructional coordinators are certified teachers that are provided by the Board of Education.
Oh, look at this one. Still has the leaves attached, look.
And they really work with the teaching staff to make sure that they are implementing the instructional part of our day.
You're going to be...
I'm going to provide gourds and pumpkins, and we're going to sort gourds by color, shape, bumps, no bumps, stems, no stems.
The instructional coordinators will coach the teachers.
And then I will demonstrate what I want the children to do.
They do assessments of the children 3 times a year.
The majority of the benchmark 3 children I'm taking are the returning kids.
Yes,
a lot of them they were here last year as well. So.
And then they work real closely with the families and the children as they're moving into kindergarten, so that transition is smooth.
In fact, engaging families more fully in school is another hallmark of good educational systems.
We really believe that parents need to be involved in their children's education. One of the things that we're really lucky about, for the majority of our parents, they drop off and they pick up. So they get to see us, they get to really know the school.
One of the interesting things about what's happening in this community is we have a high influx of immigrants in our community, and these are families who need lots of help. They're looking for places where they can obtain English mastery, where they can advance their education attainment. They're looking for a way to connect better to the public schools so they can become more engaged.
So we're not only looking at just the education of the children, but we're also looking at the whole family as part of our partnership.
It's really important that we get it right at these early ages and get these kids on the right footing if they're going to have a successful career in school and beyond. If a child does not have the skills
to read and do math by 3rd grade, we're having a tougher time closing that gap. They start to lose that self-confidence, and you really start to see kind of the light go out in their eyes.
If we don't intervene with those children who come and show deficits right away, those deficits are not going to improve. They're only going to get worse.
The most successful educational systems identify children's needs at every stage of K through 12 and get them the necessary help. Sometimes this involves lengthening the time children have to learn by expanding the school day or year. Other schools are developing intervention programs within their existing schedules. The Natchaug School in Windham has developed one such program for intervention, and they used a grant to help them with implementation.
We dispatched 3 different types of tutors here. We had literacy tutors, we had a numeracy tutor, and we had actually a couple of behavior tutors as well.
What are you picturing?
I was picturing she's small.
Yeah.
The grant allowed us to, 1, push in and support kids in whole group instruction, but then at other points in the day, to take kids out and give them very intensive small group instruction, engaging them specifically in what they need.
Natchaug, being one of the lowest performing schools to be found anywhere in Connecticut, has actually improved performance and made very significant gains in the past year.
What we're going to go right now and see, Tier 1 is where all of the kids are receiving the same type of instruction. So our goal is to make sure that at least 80 to 85% of our kids can be successful just with Tier 1. That's what we're striving for.
So Tier 2 is intervention?
This right here would be Tier 2 intervention.
What's Tier 3?
One-on-one, two-on-one, very, very
intensive. So you had success with it?
That was our biggest success last year, was finding out who needs the help first. It's not enough to just say a kid is having trouble with reading. You know, there's been scientific research that says reading really has 5 components to it. So we're able to drill down a little bit deeper to a kid's needs.
We can all run and play, or how about this one?
They like to run and play.
Scoop it all now.
They like to run and play.
That's how you read and that's how you talk. Excellent. Are you ready to read the story?
Like Natchaug, the Stratford school system has seen significant improvement from intervention programs.
Not the hot dog, not the fig jam.
One of the things that we did in Stratford a couple of years ago was to implement a reading program, and we saw phenomenal results immediately.
Ready? We're going to read together. Luke likes June very much. When we have our intervention time to work with the students who are struggling and get them to progress, we break up and we work in small groups. There's usually a classroom teacher in the class and then 1 or 2 other people in the classroom.
I agree. I think he's nervous. Which one might show he's nervous?
So it's all children that have similar levels and struggle in similar areas.
I'm mainly with the most at-risk group of students in every grade as a reading specialist. And that signal is It provides opportunity for students in a really small group, often 3 students to 1 adult, a lot of exchange of language. And in terms of monitoring their progress, it's much more specific. I'm much more in tune with every child and their needs along the way. And it looks like this group is here and that group is there, but ultimately, it's a team approach. Assessment will be with the frame.
We have meetings and say, okay, who's progressing in this group, who needs to be switched.
This is half the grade here. Is this where most of them are already performing? As a team, we can track kids, not just day to day, but year to year to year, and find the gaps and what have we missed. So the more experience we have, the better we are getting at taking in the data and actually using it in a really meaningful way.
Cute. Is it ooh or you? I see them becoming better readers, and I see them enjoying it.
But teachers and individual schools cannot raise educational achievement alone.
We're talking about nothing less important than making sure that all of our citizens have an equal opportunity. Not necessarily equal outcomes, but at least an equal opportunity to be able to succeed in life, and that's important for all of us. If children believe that they have a good chance to be able to succeed in school and to succeed later on in life, then the American dream holds up over time.
Sing. Hello, neighbor, what do you say?
These little peanuts are going to be my doctor, my lawyer, my priest, something in 20 years, 25 years. And they have to have a good start here or they're not going to get there. I have high expectations for these little guys. They're going places.
Today is Friday. Raise your hand if you can tell me what sight word is missing.